Hi guys, Hari here, doing another video. Today, or this morning, I was actually lucky enough to get a good game in. Well, I logged on, was looking for a game to record. Surely enough, in the single draft games, there was nothing but, like, there was like 5 games, the highest one was 1500 plus, so I knew I would get trolled by AJ again. Flipped the tab over to BD, banning draft, and magically enough, there was a 1700 plus to play. So, we've got a slightly better game, although I'm going to insist that this game showcases the exact same problem that I talked about in my forums post, where there's 1 or 2 people who try to ruin the game. We'll get into that later, because it still ends up being a pretty good game. So, the intro here will be a little bit longer than normal, because it's banning draft, and we've got all the picks. I wanted to Voodoo Jester here because I think he's one of the strongest heroes in this pool. Other people usually don't like playing support very much, and I would be happy to do a good support video after the Andromeda one kind of went a little bit of a different route, or at least like a, like a really true babysitting role rather than Andromeda where I was kind of just like yanking support, etc. So yeah, I insisted that he ban Soul Stealer here. I really just don't like having Soul Stealer in games. It's like something you constantly have to worry about. Like, is the Soul Stealer getting too farmed? Is he going to take over the game suddenly, etc.? Devour is pretty rough too, but I don't think he's quite as bad as Soul Stealer because, I mean, it's like 2 different things. Like, the Devourer can dominate the game if he's ganking your team too much, but the Soul Stealer can dominate the game if you're not ganking him enough. And I think it's easier to avoid getting ganked by a Devourer than it is to constantly worry about a Soul Stealer. So anyway, that was my motivation for insisting on that ban. We're kind of hoping maybe we would get Kronos and Devourer back, but they did first pick Devourer. So that's fine, we're just going to get Kronos and Voodoo Jester, as I'm insisting to my teammates that I will play Voodoo Jester. Yeah, not a whole lot to say about that. It's also the forcing Kronos first pick. I think it's fine. Kronos is still pretty strong right now, especially in public games. He's just another, I mean, it's similar principle to Soul Stealer, where if you just kind of leave him alone for long enough, he's eventually just going to win the game. Except obviously he's a much harder late carry than Soul Stealer is. So it's kind of a little bit different though, because Soul Stealer can farm so fast. Like, it's a short period of time that you have to worry about Soul Stealer in, versus Kronos, it takes a much longer period of time. But then he also has a good ultimate for setting up team fights, etc. So I'm certainly not complaining about having him on my team. And then obviously Gray picked up the Voodoo Jester. I don't actually remember what order the other team picks in. So I don't really know what picks they have coming yet. I realize that this is actually probably a little bit longer than I expected it to be, to have to keep talking in the beginning here, before the game. Maybe next time, if I do banning draft, I'll start maybe just a little bit further into the picks. Yeah, so just talking here, Pink wanted us to get him Tempest or Thunderbringer. But Thunderbringer really isn't very good against Devour mid at all. Like, I think it's a pretty rough mid. Thunderbringer, a lot of him going mid involves his capacity to last hit and harass at the same time by using his Chain Lightning, and like, Chain Lightning just tickles Devourer. Meanwhile, Devourer's just going to kind of come up and go num all over his face. So, yeah, I don't really think it's the best pick ever. Getting Hag seems good, especially since we have Kronos. So then the Hag Tempest, Kronos, Voodoo Jester, like, all set up for, and I don't think AoE ult teams are that great, but they're good lanes, and they're good ultimate combinations. Like, obviously, Tempest ulting them in with Voodoo Jester's ult, or, Kronos can set it up, Tempest can set it up, and then Hag and Voodoo Jester are 2 ways of putting out damage. So, looking at the last pick, we want to go Kraken here. Kraken is a good pick, once again, because he has 1 more AoE ultimate to set up with our team. But also because Kraken mid seems pretty solid against Devourer. Like, putting a high HP strength hero up against Devourer mid kind of makes Devourer's whole, like, run up at you and rot plan a little bit less strong, because he can really go blow for blow with the Kraken. Not to mention the Kraken has dash, or Tsunami Charge, so worst case scenario, if he gets trapped, he can pretty much just dash away, which makes Kraken a pretty solid matchup for him. I've only played Kraken once since the changes to him. Obviously I just haven't played very much at all, so that's actually what I'm saying to them right now, that I'd be happy to pick up Kraken, but I could definitely, I know I'd be fine in the laning phase, but I think I'd have some difficulty setting up his ult and stuff later. So I do get the Voodoo Jester that I wanted for my teammate, and Light Blue is happy to play Kraken mid against their Devourer. So altogether, we have pretty solid lane setups. We're going to have myself and Kronos going top. I don't know if I 100% agree with this, whether I put us bottom or top, but top seems fine. So yeah, we get to go top. The Hag will go bottom just because she can blink away. It's pretty hard for them to kill her, even though, well, if I had to look at the lanes in the other team right now, I would probably guess that Chipper and Pyro would go top, and Predator and Soul Reaper would go bottom, Devour mid. So Predator or Soul Reaper isn't going to be the worst thing ever for Hag, because at least it's not like a double stun, but it's still pretty annoying. So anyway, we should have pretty good lanes, and with Tempest top, even facing a dual range lane, which I definitely expect to see top, we should be able to gank them pretty easily and keep it pulled back. Like, that's one of the most important things facing dual ranged, is keeping it pulled back to your tower. If you get out, anywhere into the middle of the lane, like between the two towers, they're just going to harass you completely back. But by the tower, you at least stand a chance. So that'll be decent. Anyway, Tempest is buying a courier, so I'm going to buy wards. But I gave him to Hag because he's going to place them bottom, so that they can't pull against him. So he actually has some chance of getting experience. Oh, but yeah. So maybe that was all I wanted to say. Quick thing here, as I've pointed out before, it's usually best not to grab abilities before before the situation in which you want to use the ability. But I picked up Acid Cocktail here. I thought about it before doing it and just decided, well, I want this. There's no situation in which I'm not going to want this ability first, but that's kind of incorrect. If we're just sitting in lane and, I'm getting harassed or Kronos is getting harassed, when I'm at full mana, there's no reason not to cast Mojo. Like, my reasoning was, well, Mojo at level 1 really just doesn't do much, but I'm still probably going to cast it anyway, because even though it doesn't do much for the mana, it's pretty mana inefficient, it's still better than just having max mana and not doing anything. And it's not like I'm really going to be harassing with cast, because that would certainly be less efficient. So yeah, probably a little bit of a mistake there. Whoops. Anyway, we're going to go in here. Generally going for this top rune, as Hellborn is kind of, actually going for either rune, being as Hellborn is kind of disadvantageous. But we have Cask, which is pretty good if they do try to jump us at the rune, because it's a small space, so it's pretty likely that you're going to get some bounces. They're going to be stunned and not really go on you. Plus, Kronos went in first, and he can leap away. Even though that's not best to drain his mana like that, it wouldn't be terrible. So we actually see that's going to be Chipper and Soul Reaper top, which I don't necessarily agree with, to be honest. I mean, it could have to do with like a farm situation, like not wanting Soul Reaper, or you want Soul Reaper to get some more farm tops, and he's kind of semi-carry, or at least needs farm a little bit more than. But I mean, Pyro could use it too. So I mean, yeah, I just don't really, not really understanding it a ton. Anyway, so he and Chipper are up here, and as expected, dual range lane, which blows. I know I wanted to do a good support hero video. But yeah, this is not going to be that, because babysitting against two ranged is basically the worst thing in the world. For every one auto attack you should be able to get off, they should be able to get off two. Fortunately, the Chipper's playing a little pack here, so maybe he's the one they wanted to get farm, and they wanted Soul Reaper to babysit. I don't know. That was a bad positioning of me, and there's no way I should run up that far. There's a decent chance I could have actually gotten killed there. So just always, it's important to harass, but it's important not to get out of position. So yeah, I'm just going to do all I can here to just kind of, like, I understand harassing them is a losing battle because they're going to out-harass me, but I have to apply some pressure just so that Kronos can farm somewhat. I mean, that's my job. That's really all I've got to do. Other than possibly pull, which the Tempest should be doing to keep us safe anyway. So Tempest has already bought a flying courier, so at this point I'm pretty happy with the Tempest. Although we'll get to that shortly. Yeah, so at level 2 I finally get Mojo, and I'm probably going to use it right away. Yeah, just because, like I said, I have max mana, so the mana's not doing anything. So again, a bit of a mistake not getting that initially, but no, well, what can you do? So, yeah, I mean, there's not a ton to say about this lane. Obviously we're getting beat, which is why if we have Tempest come gank, or we need Tempest to come gank. I would assume probably at level 3 would be ideal. Because at that point, well, he can either have level 2 elementals or level 2 stun. Either one's pretty good for ganking. I think that's really the only debate on Tempest abilities early in the game would be whether you're going to max, or whether you're going to go level 2 elementals or level 2 stun first. I think you really need to get level 3 stun at level 5, just because the extra stuns is so important. So anyway, Tempest is now level 3, so I take a look at his bars, or maybe this will happen in a second, I can say. Kind of try going on Chronos here. Again, just trying to stay in a position where they can't attack him. Always keep trying to keep cast up. Okay, so now is the point at which I realize something. By looking at Tempest's bar, I see that he has one ability, which is Elementals. So I think I moused over it at some point. I don't really know exactly. Oh, maybe this is Chronos talking. Well, I'm just going to get into it anyway. I'm sure I moused over it at some point. Tempest is now actually level 4, and still only has one ability visible on his bar. Oh, and by the way, there's my amazing ability to run into a rocket with health potion on. That's pretty poor. Yeah, so level 4, only one ability, which is Elementals. This is not good. Going Elemental stats is not good. And this isn't me trying to say someone's bad, although I am pretty pissed about it at this point. But this is actually me trying to point out what you should never, ever do. This is not an acceptable build. This is a bad build. Maybe, just maybe, in some situation in which, I don't know, your team is just dominating lanes and you can really just farm like crazy. But I don't understand how you're going to have that grid of lanes, like how your solo is going to be beating there too anyway, if your solo is the one top that you should be ganking for. And in this situation, obviously, the carry lane is getting beat. And much more important than Tempest's farm in the jungle, well, not much more, because who knows, I mean, maybe him getting a fast portal key is kind of good, but still, Chronos and I getting screwed up like this is definitely not good. So, he really shouldn't be prioritizing his farm, which is the only reason I can see him getting stats over stun. So anyway, we really need him to gank at this point, and he doesn't have a stun, which makes him ganking just a little bit more difficult. Obviously, I have plenty of stun, but still. And regardless, even though he doesn't have that, I'm still calling for him to gank. Chronos and I both are, because, I mean, you can see the lane, we're getting beat. This is expected with a dual range. This is why you put dual range up against a hard carry lane. I mean, it's a pretty solid idea. I mean, I'm having to spend more money on health regen, partially because I'm an idiot and nose dove a rocket. But anyway, so this is also you can see that actually Tempest did do one thing well. He actually counter warded when they warded our. Oh, see, yeah, here I was going to move away, but I see that they're going on him, so I need to make sure to stay in range so that I can cask them if they do kind of try to dive too far. But yeah, so Tempest did actually counter ward when they warded our pull spot, which is really important because we do actually really need to be able to pull. So Tempest has done that thing well, but unfortunately that still doesn't forgive him for being level 5 with only one ability. Yeah, not really a whole lot here. If we can stay kind of in this middle spot, this is actually a great spot to harass in this lane from, if you can kind of stay in those trees there and attack from them, because it makes it really hard for them to attack back because of the way fog works. Unfortunately, they're kind of just a little bit too far. Here, we see the Soul Reaper's kind of low and doesn't have enough mana for Judgment, so I convinced Chronos to go for him. We're one hit off, so it was still a pretty good try. Fortunately, we didn't get him. If I'd had enough mana for Mojo too, maybe, but yeah, oh well. That should buy Chronos a bit more time to farm. We see Devourers coming up now through the woods or through the river. Always important to pay attention to the mini-map. We have Tempest here with lots of elementals, so we should have a pretty decent chance of being able to fight him once I get enough mana for one ability. So at this point, we're kind of asking Tempest, make his way over here with some elementals, and instead he is doing the exact opposite. He's basically just going further right. So I knew Devour was here, so I was making sure to try to always keep creeps in between me and where he could possibly be hooking from. I wasn't actually, when he did try hooking, that wasn't the case, but I was far enough back that there's no way he would have been able to hook at that range, so it was alright anyway. Our bot dies, not really, something. See, alright, yeah, here, for example, I don't keep chasing after him because there's a decent chance that Devour could have been in the woods over in that little path between the two sets of trees to the left, so I didn't keep chasing after the chipper because there's a decent chance of me getting hooked, which is why I just backed up even though I had creeps with me, because creeps don't care about a Devour. Even here, yeah, see, I start to go in there and realize it's kind of risky, but here I do something really dumb. I try to juke Devour by continuing to run up. I didn't really know why. And now I know I'm screwed, so I need to throw a cask, and yeah, there's just nothing smart about what I did there. Just really bad positioning, and I don't know why I did it. And I'm going to get both of us killed because of it. So, yeah. Always be mindful of your positioning. It's interesting because I was talking about positioning a second ago, and then I wasn't. However, in my defense, we did ask Tempest to come help us, like,